That was about as ugly as it gets. I'm Caleb Jarreau. That's Trevor McGee. We are here at Neyland Stadium, where Tennessee somehow pulled off a 23-17 victory in overtime over the Gators. There's not much to sum that up other than ugly. Why don't you try your best, Trevor?
Yeah, last week I guess I was mistaken when I started it off by saying that's as ugly as it gets offensively. Tennessee put 23 points on the board, and yet somehow it was even more ugly than last week's performance against Arkansas. I don't even know what to say about that game because my eyes didn't want me to watch it, but unfortunately I had to watch it and push out a story. Dylan Sampson, of course, has been the story this season, now up to 15 touchdowns on the year. Thanks to a 3-touchdown performance tonight, got that hat trick, the overtime winner in this end zone right behind us. Ended up right on this side right behind us too, so it wasn't a pretty night, but once again, like you said, Tennessee somehow pulled it out even when they looked like they wanted to lose the game, and that's ultimately a win because you end up in the win column.
We go down the stats real quick. Dylan Sampson, 119 yards, 112 net yards, 3 touchdowns tonight. All of Tennessee's offensive production ran through Dylan Sampson. When you look at the passing yards, Tennessee as a team totaled 169, Nico Iamaleava. And between Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway, the Gators put up 223. So for an offense as potent as Josh Heupel's is supposed to be, it got outpassed by a quarterback who transferred from Wisconsin to Florida, was not good last year, and a freshman who apparently, according to Billy Napier, both have significant injuries now. So not what you want at all in the numbers, but hey, the only stat that matters is the final score. And they came away with that. Let's dive into this one. Defense, first off, played great all around. Keenan Peely with an injury doesn't look good for him. Heupel didn't have an update, but he was on the sideline with a knee brace and on crutches, not putting any weight on that leg. Obviously not something you want to see from your defensive leader, but Arian Carter, another linebacker, came through with a pick. James Pierce Jr. was back impacting that unit, had some fourth down stops, had some big, they held up when Tennessee's offense didn't. It was the same story as Oklahoma, where Tennessee came out with the win. It was the same story as last week, except this time Tennessee's offense did just enough to come out with the win. What did you see out of that defense, Trevor?
Yeah, it just hasn't changed throughout any of these more than 4 games. We're 6 games in now, but throughout these last
games
couple
that matter.
Yeah, the games that matter. It hasn't changed. Last week Arkansas, it wasn't really the defense's fault that they gave up that final touchdown in the last minute because the offense was giving them nothing to work with. Yep. This week the offense once again gave them nothing to work with, but the defense still came through in big spots, and it's just those small things that matter that I guess really aren't small when you think about it, because forcing a fumble right here on that 1-yard line isn't really small because that ended up being a really big impact play in the late first half. And as you mentioned, James Pierce right there in on it, as he started off really slow, but now he's really getting in stride. I believe over the last 2 weeks has 16 tackles. I could be off on that.
He had 7 tonight with a sack. Boot Carter led the way with 7 total tackles, a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss. And I think what makes the defense's performance even better is when you look at it like game as a whole. Because last year, the defensive line was definitely improved. The defense wasn't very good. Secondary wasn't good. But if you're able to put up points, I should use 2022 as an example, not last year. 2022, defense was all right. But when you're able to score so much, it doesn't put the spotlight on them. Now the spotlight is on the defense, and they were living up because the offense had no life tonight. They were behind the chains. First drive, you get a fumble from Nico Iamaleava right here where it looked like he had tucked it from the RPO and then dropped it. There's a holding call that puts back another drive. If you focus on Tennessee's offensive line, half the time they're not getting off the line to block anybody. So, Nico half the time is running for his life. When he's not running for his life, he's able to complete passes, and still, he's, as Heupel said, sometimes he's missing the open guy. If the open guy's there, he's getting rushed out of the pocket. He took 3 consecutive sacks in a row to force a punt when Tennessee was driving at midfield. They just could not get anything sustained. And he said it's just them shooting themselves in the foot. So I guess we're transitioning to offense now because truly it was not a good performance. Heupel said it himself. Anybody you talk to who watched this game will say the offense was not good. The defense won them this football game. Aside from Dylan Sampson, Trevor, what did the offense show you tonight?
Once again, the same story as last week. The offensive line, really bad. You can't have that performance back-to-back weeks out of your front 5 because, right up there at left tackle, you have Lance Hurd, who is been really, really bad the last 2 weeks. On the right side, you have John Campbell, who had way too many penalties. I believe at least 3 come to my mind, and another unsportsmanlike conduct. He's been getting into those extra penalties he doesn't need to be having, and it doesn't help when those are your tackles that are protecting both the strong and blind side of Nico, and he can't even put much trust in them right now because they're not doing much for him. So in a way, it feels like he can't get confidence. He's uncomfortable. He spoke before the season about liking road environments, but now We saw last week struggled in that. He came back home. You think maybe he'll be more comfortable because the crowd will be on his side. They'll be quiet when he's on offense. He still didn't seem comfortable, and I think a lot of that's attributed to the fact that his offensive line is not helping him out whatsoever.
And when they moved the football, there's a couple drives that were going good, like before the 3 sacks in a row, before the holding call. When the tempo got rolling, Nico looked all right during those drives, playing off the run game, able to hit open wide receivers. It's when those penalties happen, or he takes a sack, or he has to scramble and run and then ends up only getting 1 or 2 yards. That's when the things start to pile up, and we haven't seen Nico able to keep the offense moving when stuff like that happens. And honestly, Trevor, I said it a little bit last week. I don't know if I said it on our video. It looks he's seen ghosts. I mean, his blind side, going all the way back to Oklahoma, I think he got strip sacked twice. I think it started there. Last week was worse. And then this week I would put in between the 2 performances somewhere. But I feel like he's seen ghosts. He feels that internal clock that every quarterback has. His is probably a lot higher than what it, or a lot shorter, than what it should be, especially as a redshirt freshman guy. Because preseason, we talked about it. Every outlet talked about it. You thought the strength of this team was that offensive line. That's a veteran group. And you thought, hey, you throw redshirt freshman Nico Iamaleava behind these 5 guys, Cooper Mays at center, John Campbell, pick up Lance Hurd in the portal, fit in a couple guards you've had in your program before, like Javonte Spraggins. You thought, hey, this offense is going to be potent because you've got veterans up front. They can help out the young quarterback, good receivers on the outside. Now, 6 games in, 5 games in, what are we? 6 games in. It doesn't look like that at all. Nico's seen ghosts. He's rushed. He has to run for his life. You can't run designed runs because half the time he's scrambling. You want to limit how much he's hit. He's getting sacked in the backfield from easy blocks. I'm not an offensive lineman, despite my build. But, it's blocks that they should be making. You get some help in pass protection from Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop when they're back there, but then that takes them out of the pass game. And Dylan Sampson, when he catches the ball, just like when he runs it, is electric. So it all goes together, which is what Heupel mentioned tonight. It's not working. And next week, there's going to be a lot less room for error for an Alabama team who's now barely escaped South Carolina at home today, which was insane, and also lost to Vanderbilt the week before. You don't know what to expect from them. You don't know what to expect from Tennessee's offense. And Heupel looked very frustrated when he was asked about it compared to the defense. But, hey, special teams. Jackson Ross with a ton of great punts tonight, really carrying his weight here. Trevor, final takeaway.
I definitely do want to touch a little bit more base that it's not entirely Nico's fault because that offensive line was bad, but also, I guess I'm not blaming the offensive line rather, but Nico was making some throws down the field, but those were not good throws. So in a way, the offensive line
overthrew Squirrel for a touchdown. Followed that up with an overthrow to Chaz Nimrod, I think, after Squirrel got hurt on the overthrow because he fully extended, dove. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, lands on that shoulder. He walks off the field holding his arm. Chaz Nimrod runs up. Literally 2-3 plays later, overthrows him as well. So you're right. There is blame to go around everywhere, but I wonder. The offense, it's hard to win when your offensive line is not playing. It's SEC football. It's one in the trenches. That's why Tennessee won this game tonight. They dominated the defensive side of the ball. Offense, not so much. So, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's just the defense has to do exactly what they've been doing all year. When they go into next week, it's going to be another crazy environment. Yeah. Heupel credited the first thing he said was the fans. The fans definitely made a difference tonight because at times there was no momentum, but these small momentum plays brought life to the crowd, and the life to the crowd translates to the field. And Tennessee really enjoyed being back home for the first time in a month. So when you move on to next week, you've got to think the defense will be on their game, but will the offense be able to improve? And obviously that's the question everywhere. And ultimately it comes down to your redshirt freshman quarterback, and Nico has to be better because those missed throws definitely hurt him.
Hey, Kalen DeBoer's 0-1 on the road in the SEC. And that one loss is Vanderbilt. And Nick Saban said it. There's one SEC stadium where the crowd isn't in it. That's, I don't know what their stadium's called anymore after the sponsorship. First Bank Stadium in Nashville. So it looks very pretty on the video game. Didn't treat Alabama well. We'll see what Neyland Stadium does to Alabama next weekend and the Vols. Coverage on the website, photo gallery. This video is going up. I think that's it. Special team shout out again. Jackson Ross played good, didn't miss a field goal. For Trevor McGee, I'm Caleb Jarreau with the Daily Beacon. At every football game, continuing to bring you coverage.